When we talk about climate change and we think about the effects on us as a wine producer, it's undoubtedly these very unpredictable weather patterns. It's the fact that harvest seems to become earlier and earlier. There's an increased risk of disease, and at the end of the day, there's a real risk that the flavour profile of our wines will be altered.
This last vintage, 2022, has been quite challenging for us. It has had one of the earliest starts historically in many of our vineyards, motivated by hot temperatures, repeated constant heat waves, and a lack of rainfall, which have accelerated the maturation process of the grapes.
So I have seen in the last 20 years, since I started at Pine Ridge until now, I see like a 5 degrees warmer now than it was 20 years ago. And also I see this changes going to the cooler areas. So that clearly tells us that the global warming is happening.
And although our average temperatures haven't risen substantially, nor indeed has there been a vast variation to the amount of annual rainfall, the changes are occurring in a different way. We're getting our rainfall in more intense bursts. We're getting summers where, on a day like today with this intense heat, we see this cloud build up, and this produces hailstorms, which are incredibly damaging to young vines and to young fruit.
So far, we have been able to adapt to this change, mainly through viticultural management practices, but we know this problem is only going to continue. This year, there was a typhoon and flash flooding in Hawke's Bay that decimated vineyards and wreaked havoc on the community. We know that this problem is going to get worse, and we have to do something about it.
The weather that's coming through is much more intense. I actually live up in the mountains in California, and we had a snowstorm, they call it an atmospheric river, roll through over the Christmas holiday, where we had 8 feet of snow in the period of 4 to 5 days. And that's just one example of these events, these weather events that are coming through all around the world. You know, too much rain, melting ice, the evidence, it's all there. I think we're all seeing it and we're all feeling it. And I think as farmers, in particular in the wine industry, I think this industry feels it the most intensely.
In my mind, I remember 2017 as a turning point, because we had a similar difficult vintage, hot and dry, similar to 2007, so 10 years after. The plants didn't react the same way. In 2007, they adapt better to this condition. In 2017, they simply lost significantly their productivity and couldn't really reach a great maturation.
There is no question that Mother Nature is proclaiming her distaste for humans' exploitations. The reality is that the earth will, no question, adapt. It always has. But there's little guarantee that its adaptations will host humans as graciously as it has.
But it's the interaction of humanity altering the landscape, changing the way that nature does things, that is provoking so much of today's climate change. And the important thing for all of us in the wine industry is to think about the fact that our actions, whether they are big or small, have an impact. And every single action that we make not only can be creating a problem, but it also can be creating a solution. And together, I think in the wine industry, we have a massive capacity to change the way agriculture is thought about. And we have a great advantage. We are able to talk straight to the consumer. And the consumer today absolutely cares what companies are doing.
Some of the issues with climate change, I think climate change is primarily a symptom of loss of biodiversity, bad farming practices, not intentionally, but that's what has happened. And so I want to talk about how we are creating solutions in order to not focus on the problem, but focus on the solution.
And I think it's important that we must remember that the climate doesn't respect the limit of our vineyards. So whilst in the wine industry we may be used to competing on the flavor of the wine we make versus what our competitor makes, we have to work together when it comes to the environment, because what the neighbor does or does not do will impact directly our vineyards. So it's hugely important that people take a completely different attitude to the climate and start to think about the cooperative elements, about creating a positive, virtuous circle. And it was on this background that we launched something called the Porto Protocol back in 2018, which now operates in over 20 countries across the world on 5 different continents, with wineries and winemakers sharing solutions to the climate issue, thereby implying that we don't need to do a lot of research to kind of figure out the problems. A lot of the work's already been done. What we have to do is get on and do the implementation.
We have worked tirelessly over the last couple of decades to offset, mitigate our impact on climate in general, our whatever negativity we may find on our Earth, planet, and global society.
Our general approach in order to mitigate climate change is really for us to work with ISO 14001. This makes us look at every single decision we make across the business, keeping environmental sustainability to the fore.
I am personally and professionally committed to doing my part to minimize impact in as many ways as I can. I now ask myself, what would nature think about my decision?
Gonzalez Byass Sustainability Program was implemented 10 years ago, in 2013. It is called 5+5, Caring for the Environment. It represents the 5 generations of the Gonzalez family, which have led the company, caring for the planet to the 21st century, so that the next 5 generations can continue this mission based on the work already done. It is applied in all our wineries, although each of them has its own specific program, and it is based in 5 pillars. Caring for the land, which refers to our sustainable agricultural techniques. Caring for the air, with our initiatives to mitigate climate change with the installation of clean energies, for example. Caring for the water, with our initiatives for saving and recycling water. Then we work to be more, which includes our work with our suppliers and our clients. And we work to be better, which represents our constant improvement philosophy.
So we've designed this vineyard specifically with the intention of increasing biodiversity. And one of the ways that we're doing that is allowing sheep to graze in this throughout the year. And if you can see behind me here, our vineyard is actually pretty tall. It's trained high, and this allows us to graze sheep in here throughout the year. So what we have done is raise this trellis system up. It's a partial overhead, so it shades on both sides. This helps keep the fruit cooler, helps keep the vineyard floor cooler, and that allows us to basically modify the climate within the vineyard, within the vines, to help mitigate the increases in temperature. In addition to reducing our outside fertility needs, reducing a lot of the labor, like we don't have to do any weeds. We don't have any weeds because everything that grows in here is either forage for livestock, or it's native plants that have a nectar for pollinators, or there's numerous benefits of having this wide diversity of plants in here. So having the sheep in here, by eliminating the need for mowing, makes it a lot easier for insects to live in here. So that's one of the reasons why we have high insect populations. And keep in mind that the majority of insects are beneficial, or at least not harmful to the vines. So having a large population and diversity of insects helps for the resiliency of the vineyard overall. Their presence in the vineyard seems to be increasing the vine health. We're measuring higher bricks in the areas where the sheep are browsing than in the areas where they're not browsing. And they have this benefit to the soil by converting the shoot tipping that they're doing and the suckering that they're doing. They're converting all of that to dung and urine. So our nutrient cycling is much better. Our fertility is going up. Our carbon levels in our soil have increased by over 1% now, and that is increasing our water holding capacity. So all of these things are working synchronistically in helping to feed and grow the health of this system. So we are basically mimicking nature, and by doing that, we're creating a healthy ecosystem. In addition, we are following the principles of soil health, so we keep our vineyard floor covered throughout the growing season and the dormant season. We always have something covering the ground. Either it's a living plant or it's crop residue that's on the ground. And even though we're in our second year of a very severe drought, we still have a decent cover of dried vegetation and a few living plants on our soil surface.
And I want to just really talk to you a little bit about the pruning process that we do on these vines, which traditionally would have all been done by hand. And very often the shoots would have then been cut off, pruned, and this would have then been burned, thereby releasing carbon into the atmosphere. But what we do today is we do a process of pre-pruning, where a machine will be brought along this row of vines, and you can see a very clear, easy access for those machines. And as it runs through, it actually produces a cut of those shoots that looks like this. They're sort of pretty even in size. You can imagine all of these being cut down. And this allows these extra wood effectively to simply fall to the ground and become mulched in, thereby enriching the soil and at the same time eliminating the burning off of the cuttings, thereby reducing the amount of carbon dioxide that is put into the atmosphere. The positive there, the positive, a better soil.
So this is our vineyard. This was planted in 1994. So these vines are nearly 30 years old, planted on their own roots. This is clone 10 by 5. Right now you can see the cover crop is really just plantains, but every spring we plant a mix of edible cover crops. This includes coriander, cauliflower, spinach, kale, chamomile, borage, radishes, and then a few traditional cover crops such as lucerne, chicory, alyssum, a lot of wildflowers, sunflowers, poppies. But the idea really is obviously with cover crops is that we're promoting vine balance with all of the flowering cover crops. Along the way, we have actually really improved the organic matter in our soil, which you can see here is extremely dark and rich and super healthy.
And I want to just show you this new way of planting that we've been doing. It's an award-winning way. That what we've been able to do is to create much smaller slopes where we can get access from our tractors to this to control the weeds, thereby eliminating all the use of herbicides. We're actually able to mechanically control these. But one of the biggest problems of climate change is about erosion. Heavy rainfall happening at certain times of the year. You know, it's not unusual nowadays that we might get a whole week's worth of rain in a single hour. And the way these slopes have been laid out, and we've done this with a laser, is to get a very precise angle of slope along the lateral, but then also tilt it back into the hill. And you'll also notice that there's a small increase in the height of the land on the front side. What does this mean? It means that the rainfall, as it comes down, drains back into the hill and gradually along at a slope of about 3 degrees. And that means that all that rainfall actually goes down into the bedrock, replenishing our reserves and not taking the soil and all of the goodness off down the hill into the river. But you know, climate change is often about small details. And if we just look at the way we see these vines grow and how we control that growth as the vines, the shoots grow up. Historically, this little thing here would have been made of plastic. Today, this is made out of compressed sawdust, effectively a type of cardboard. And what this is doing is it's allowing the wires to be joined together to control the growth of the shoots. It was plastic, it's now made of sawdust.
What are we doing in general to turn around? Well, we are completely, in fact, changing. And as I was mentioning, since 2017, our approach to vine growing. Since I've been working in Tuscany on winemaking, I adopted this model of stressing a bit the plant to lower its productivity and to address all the energy to quality. This is not anymore the model. The model is now supporting the plant and trying to relieve the plant from those extreme conditions and really give her help in trying to nearly survive, I would say. And this is the general approach.
Our native reforestation program is taking place here in this 3-hectare beautiful paddock that runs parallel to the vineyard and has historically been overrun by invasive species such as broom and gorse. Through the help of a local ecologist, we have developed a 20-year planting program where we plant a section of native trees in a high-density area each year. By doing small segments, we can continually adapt to ensure the right species is successfully established. We chose not to spray the invasive species with herbicides prior to planting, as they provide great shelter for the natives during establishment from this really harsh environment. We plant at a high density around them, and now they're starting to outcompete the invasives, which is amazing to see.
We've also restored an area of wetland at one of our vineyards, and it was so successful that we now actually have our own little nursery growing native plants ready for the next planting at one of our other vineyard sites.
So that was a P. waka waka, also known as a fantail, and that is a extremely cute native bird to New Zealand, and it followed me as I was walking down the vineyard because they follow humans around as they turn up soil so that they can collect the insects behind them, and it's just such a nice thing to see. It's exactly what we want to see, and it's exactly why we're doing the work that we're doing.
Having high insect populations encourages birds, and so consequently we have a great diversity of birds, including a big influx of tricolored blackbirds this year, which is indigenous to California and is an endangered species. So we've had a dramatic increase in all kinds of birds here, and which has been very beneficial to increasing the biodiversity of the vineyard. So we are monitoring everything from soil microorganisms to bird populations and everything in between, which would be plants. We're looking at plant diversity, how that is increasing and changing over time, and we're looking at bird diversity, how that is increasing and changing over time as well. To me, that is the most important aspect. It's not so much about who you're certified by, but it's actually what is occurring in your vineyard due to your practices. We are also comparing our site with neighboring sites that are farming differently, mainly farming conventionally. That allows us to have some idea of whether we are on track or not to increase our biodiversity and our plant health.
I want to bring an example of something that we were doing in the past. We have a couple vineyards where we have a groundwater limitations, where we were basically watering automatic every week, a little bit of water every week, just to make the vines grow, because we felt that was the right thing to do at the moment. But after we started chulling on the property, we found like we were adding way more water than what we really need. What chulling really does for me is basically reads the evapotranspiration of the vine. It tells me how much water the vine uses through the day and how much water I had to apply back to the vines. By doing that, I found like our quality and our fruit went high and high every year. So we are very happy with this system now. So one of the other advantages that we found in Chuli is that I believe we are saving between 30–35% of water in a normal year. Of course, if it's a dry year, we use a lot more water, but in a normal year, an average year, we probably save about 30–35% of water. So when that limitations of water that we have, Chuli really helps us to monitor the vineyard more, to utilize the water more efficient than what we were doing in the past.
To tackle the unpredictable precipitation issue, we installed drainage pipes on every row, which collects the excess rainwater in a big pond. We also collect winery building roof water. To overcome dry summers, we installed drip irrigation system that filters the same rainwater using it as a water source. Our drip irrigation also has a fertigation feature, so we can incorporate fertilizer, micronutrients like liquid carbon. We always test new viticultural practices like using ozone to spray our wines for pest management without the use of any chemicals.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the end use of the water that we have reclaimed from the winery and visitor center, that we have cleaned up through our live unit biodigester that goes to our decanting pond, which further gets aeration. And once the wine is nice and clean, then we are able to reuse that water here in the vineyards and in our landscaping around the winery. And I just want to mention the fact that not just here at the estate vineyard, but in all of our vineyards across Napa Valley, we use a lot of different techniques to ensure that we're only using the amount of water that we absolutely need in each specific vineyard block. And the way we do that is we take pictures with satellites, and that gives us an indication of which parts of the canopy in different vineyards are drier than others and which parts have enough water and are producing just fine. That allows us to vary the amount of water that we're using, just to precisely put it where it's absolutely needed. We use soil probes to directly measure the soil moisture, and that tells us once again which areas need more water than others. We employ a technique called deficit irrigation, which most high quality growers do employ, and that's a technique where we don't give the vine absolutely all the water that it needs throughout the year. We actually give it a proportion of the water that it needs, enough water to create a good canopy and to have healthy growth, but not so much that any water is wasted. And then finally, we actually measure the leaves in the vine and check the water pressure in the leaves to tell us the direct water status of each vine. So the reason that we use all these different techniques to check the soil, to make sure the canopy is healthy, is that we're trying to conserve water at every application and use absolutely only the water that we need.
For vineyard operations, we actually bought a new tractor. Not only is it far more technologically advanced, but it emits 25% less emissions, so it's way more efficient overall. We also have a double-sided leaf plucker, which means that it can go on the tractor and be used at the same time as when we mow, so far less passes are needed through the vineyard.
Bairrada, our Rioja winery, has become the first winery in the world to achieve the Sustainable Construction Certification LEED v4 and LEED Gold. Granted by the US Green Building Council, this certification recognizes those buildings that are sustainably constructed and with low environmental impact, meaning that the winery has had a completely holistic approach. The winery is integrated in the landscape of Rioja. The main part of the winery is built underground, taking advantage of the natural terracing existing in the state's upper and lower vineyards, which is approximately of 8 meters. This helps the use of gravity and also the natural thermal inertia that the earth provides. The winery has a green roof covered with native plants from the area, which require very little maintenance and hardly need any water. The roof is also used to recover rainwater, which is then used for irrigation. We use 4 renewable energy sources. Geothermia, taking advantage of the natural temperature at 130 meters underground to maintain stable thermal conditions for the barrel and the bottling aging areas all year round. Public areas also use the same system to avoid incurring into higher energy consumption. Aerothermal energy is also used for heating and cooling other parts of the building. In the roof, solar thermal panels are installed to heat the water for cleaning processes, and photovoltaic panels are also installed for electric energy. The design of the winery, with a half-moon shape and its southeast orientation, makes the most of the natural light that comes throughout its big windows. This provides spaces that are pleasant thanks to the temperature being controlled all year round, and also to the curtain wall facade that protects from direct sunlight, for example in the fermentation area. The barrel hall and bottle cellar are both underground, with no exterior facade, with constant temperature throughout the year and significant energy savings. We use a system called Clean Wood for barrel cleaning, based on high-frequency waves. This system for the maintenance of the barrel park makes the process of disinfection and regeneration faster and helps reduce the amount of water and electricity consumed. The technology, which regenerates the wood in just 4 minutes, delivers a set pattern of frequencies and intensities that eliminate microorganisms. Setting the correct pattern is key.
We have a large rooftop solar PV system that with backup batteries to make sure we will have enough power to run our essential equipment continuously. Our 20,000 square feet winery building heating and cooling is done by geothermal system that does not burn any fossil fuels.
We installed 200 solar panels on the winery roof. We've put in a brand new refrigeration system that is way more efficient. We've also moved to electric cars for our company cars. And in fact, our diesel use has reduced by 40%.
You know, when it regards to water use, some of the real challenges that we face here in a winery are, you know, when we cut back on water use, we can often cut back on our ability to control microbes in the water, in the winery, and our general cleanliness across the winery. So we've had to develop different cultural techniques and bring in tools to our winery to help us use water more efficiently and to try to cut down on water use across the board. And I'd like to start here with our squeegee and shovel, because what it really starts with here at Alpha Omega is training our production team to be very conscious of our water use. So when we're cleaning up solids like grape skins or lees, we pick those solids up with squeegees and shovels as opposed to just pushing them around with water use. We don't bring out the water until all the solids have been totally cleaned from the area, and then we do a quick final rinse with the water. On all of our water hoses, we have implemented low flow, high pressure nozzles. This really helps us decrease the overall amount of water use. It gets a good blast on the surfaces that we're trying to clean. Some of the other equipment that we utilize here at the winery to most efficiently use our water are things like ozone generators. We generate ozone to help us clean and sanitize our barrels and our crush equipment here behind me. And it's much, much more efficient than using pure hot water. So that helps us really decrease on water use. We use these cloud washers in our tanks. These are units that turn the water pressure into really high pressure jets that help us clean the tanks really efficiently. Here I've got a barrel steamer. We utilize steam, which really cuts down on the overall amount of water to clean the inside of the barrels, to really blast into those pores to get the microbes out. And then we use a lot of pressure washing here too. All of our pressure wash units really minimize the amount of water used and help use that energy to blast the particulate matter away. And the beautiful thing about using these pieces of equipment here at Alpha Omega is we're solar powered. So when we change water use to energy use, we're really becoming very efficient because we generate all of that power here in-house. One of the great things that we have in place here at Alpha Omega is what we call our live unit here that helps us with wastewater reclamation. Now what this unit does is it's basically a biodigester that brings in our wastewater, pH adjusts the water so that it can be basically biofermented and remove a lot of the organic matter and solids. That clean water is decanted out of this live unit to our wastewater pond, where it's further aerated and further cleaned up, and then eventually we can use that water and bring it back to our vineyards and landscaping surrounding the winery here at Alpha Omega.
As well as using less water overall, we installed a water recycling system. So we capture water from the winery roof and then it is filtered and recycled and we can use it again. As a result of this, we took 45% less water from underground than the average for other wineries of our size, the 22 vintage compared to 21.
And why I start to reusing bottles? Because we have some studies that tell us the footprint of the wine. The most percentage of the footprint of the wine come from the bottle. So, and reusing bottles, we can we spend less 90% of the energy and we know that the energy today it's a big problem. So if we can afford 90%, it's a good way of be better with our environment. And the water, we spend less, 85% of the water. Again, we only have one water, yes? So if we spend less and if we pollute less the water, so we have to think about that. One thing more that I start not reusing the capsule of the bottles. Why we use this thing? I read many things, I hear a lot of opinions, and at the end, it's not necessary. Some of them are plastic and give me a lot of work to take off. It's not easy to clean sometimes this part, believe me. So some are plastic, some are metal material, I don't remember the name, but believe me, this is not necessary. And after Phoenix, my bottles don't have capsule. This one, it's one of my wines. And my sparkling wine don't have capsule too. This is my rosé, and I'm from Bairrada. I make more sparkling than still wines. So, but I stopped to use capsule because why we need that? And my bottles are black, so perfect for that.
So we reviewed all of our packaging as well, using only FSC certified paper products and fibre. There is a minimum of 60% recycled glass in our New Zealand sourced bottles. 90% of those are lightweight. And our pallet wrap is biodegradable. We compost our waste, including all the staff lunch leftovers, so a really team event.
And one thing more that I make is reusing the boxes. So I have these boxes here, and I cut the box and I turn on the box wide. In this position, I can make a new box. Okay, this is not easy to make it here, but believe me, we can do it like this. Okay, and we have a new box with my tape, and you can do it. You can see it. You know what is more important? The environment, that it's only one, or us drinking wine and make this.
We've reduced our waste to landfill by 37%. This has been through reviewing our purchasing decisions, but also by installing a range of proper recycling bins. We even take the wrap off the bottles that arrive here. This gets sent away and returned to us as slip sheets.
So the business model that Conscious Container is launching with is a B2B model, where we take excess bottles off production lines in California, large producers. We use the infrastructure of the existing recycling system and the recyclers who are driving around with that glass to bring the glass to our facility. We wash that glass, we package it, and then we're selling it to small and medium wineries who are having a real challenge getting glass. The supply chain challenge for glass bottles is also driving up the cost of that glass. So we are really working on the low-hanging fruit, business to business, how we launch. And then as we move forward, we'll be working on refillable pilots with tasting rooms and direct to consumers. That will probably be the first place that you will see a consumer-facing model with refillable bottles. When we talk about the benefits of a returnable system, number one, overall 85% lower carbon emissions for a refillable glass bottle versus a single glass bottle. That data is available because these systems exist around the world. You also have a vehicle by which you can move from linear to circular, but also you have sustainability targets. Packaging comes in Scope 3 emissions. This is a direct impact to Scope 3 emissions, which are very elusive, very challenging.
The US is the largest consumer of wine in the world. And we also have some of the lowest recycling rates. We have to stop using recycling as a guilt-free card, because even if we were actually recycling, which we're not, the problem is way too vast to recycle our way out of. As an importer and distributor, I play a crucial and powerful role linking producers of wine to the end market. I am doing my best to use this power for good by not only educating about this topic, but also by producing high quality box wine, because it's the packaging type with the lowest carbon footprint, and by piloting reuse programs for glass. Challenges in this journey towards producing and promoting and encouraging consumption of higher end bag-in-box and creating a circular economy have been countless. But I'm not giving up, and I've tried to view each challenge as an opportunity to be creative. As an agriculture-based industry, directly feeling the impact of climate change every single vintage, we really don't have the luxury of being passive. So when someone tells me, bag-in-box? Really? I'm like, yeah, really, because every one of our actions can really have an impact. And once it's in the glass, does it really matter? We just at this point can't say that it's too hard, or that I don't want to change, or that my actions don't matter. It's too late for that.
So the call to action, solving climate change is a collaborative effort. We all have to come together to move the needle much more quickly. And one of those ways is the Porto Protocol. It's where I first learned about the small regional refillable wine bottle systems. They were guests on the Porto Protocol in a webinar. So coming together collaboratively is how we address most quickly climate change challenges. But it really is my request to all of you is get engaged. And we have a lot to do in a really short period of time.
I have been a Porto Protocol member since 2020, and I love that there's a community that focuses on sharing and implementing real solutions for our industry. We desperately need this. If not, it's too easy to just carry on as we always have, and to our detriment.
So I think Porto Protocol is important in that it allows growers to learn from each other all over the world. I would encourage everybody in the wine business to support the Porto Protocol and become active in it, because it's creating a community of dialogue and solutions into how we can move forward and affect positive change in our work and our industry.
We all need to work together as we have all the same objectives, so sharing solutions and actions is a good idea, which will help us obtain better and faster results.
We joined the Porto Protocol not only to show all of the different things that we're doing to combat climate change, but also to share our journey in the hope of helping others, of inspiring others. The Porto Protocol is extremely supportive, and when we're all in it together, it really helps make things easier.
We would like to thank the Porto Protocol for having us being part of the program. We have been with them for the last 2 years, and we have learned so much about carbon neutral and all other things. And we would like to invite you to join the Porto Protocol.
We're excited to be a part of the Porto Protocol, where like-minded businesses and individuals have come together to champion this great effort that we've all undertaken, and also to share some of the learning that we've experienced in our efforts. I am really excited about passing on some of the conservation techniques that we have implemented here at Alpha Omega, but also learning and finding out what other people are doing at their wineries to deal with climate change, to better conserve our natural resources that are so valuable to us.
We are members of the Porto Protocol since 2020. and we really wish as much producers as possible to join this incredible community of share and solution. So unitevi a noi, insieme siamo più forti.